Hi, I'm Phil Ball, pastor of Odyssey Christian Church in Jenks, Oklahoma. We're part of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, and we offer a non-judgmental approach to support your personal journey of faith. After the message, we invite you to keep listening for a presentation from our wonderful band. And if you want to experience worship live, we invite you to find out all the details at www.facebook.com/Odyssey CC.
Well, I'm calling this, for lack of any other term, the Resurrection After Party. And it's going to last until our birthday. Because officially, I don't care about official stuff, except tradition informs us. We're not married to tradition, but I think we're stupid to ignore it, or less than helpful, because it's like there's this 1,000 years of memory. And so many people, miss history for 100 different reasons, that history gets us, it doesn't lock us, it just informs us so that we make better decisions, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. And for me, that's the memory of the church has been really helpful. From when I was in seminary, we started learning about church seasons and everything. That was like, I never heard anything about this. And I began to make sense out of it, and then some people who were really impactful in my theological training took the seasons and turned them into realistic things that we could get hold of. And so from now until about May the 15th, which is our birthday party, we'll be looking at what I call the Resurrection After Party. And I consider this to be kind of like, a normal after party. Like I hear what little bit I pay attention to celebrities. It seems that the after parties after the Academy Awards are where everybody just lets their hair down and hangs out. And I think that kind of captures the spirit of what I consider to have happened through the gospel tradition with all of the disciples and everybody else after the resurrection. And so I want to dance with that. And this is a little different than probably what you've ever done before, because I just made it up. But because I'm going to all the different gospel stories. Out of the 4 gospels, there's 3 of them that really play around with the after party, the post-resurrection experience. And usually, if you're following lectionary, you don't get but one during the season. But we're going to look at all of them, because I think each one of them reveal some really important stuff. And it's like they begin to inform us as much about who Jesus was as all the stuff that happened before Easter. Where, before Easter, we got him teaching and healing and doing miracle stuff and different things and running around and upsetting the religious authorities and just doing all kinds of stuff. Well, after the resurrection, there's a bunch of things that happen. And what happens is the response of his followers to these circumstances. And I'm convinced that their response is our response. That when the way they respond would be the way we would respond in those settings. So I want to look at each one and kind of, not each one, but enough of them to kind of play with them and see what they're about. So that's kind of what we're about. And we're going to start off with Mary and Magdalene and Jesus, because she was the very first one that, according to the Gospels I can figure, that really had an experience with Jesus after he was resurrected. And there's a little backstory. If you watch the music shows, like The Voice and stuff like that, you get these backstories on all these people before they show up. Well, the backstory on Mary Magdalene, it is really found in Matthew, even though the story of Mary Magdalene discovering Jesus as a resurrected entity is in John. It talked about at Jesus' crucifixion, Matthew says, many women were there also looking on from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee and had provided for him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, etc., etc., etc. And then it talks about Joseph of Arimathea finding the place, the tomb, giving his tomb away to Jesus and that kind of a thing. And then the text, and this is all in Matthew 27 if you want to look it up. It says, and he rolled a great stone to the door of the tomb and went away. And then the next line in the last verse of that chapter is, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there sitting opposite the tomb. So they just kind of sat there and stood watch, if you would, whatever that means. And so that's that experience, a backstory. And then the resurrection time or the day is what I want to call encountering a new reality. And let's look at how this story unfolds just for a minute. So she ran and went to Simon, Peter, and the other disciple. By the way, there's this other disciple in there, or the disciple whom Jesus loved. And a lot of scholars think that's Mark, John Mark, who may have written the Gospel of Mark. We don't know. But you get this unnamed reference there. And the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, they have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him. Then it says, and you've got that up there, but then I want to read the rest of that. Then the two were running together, and the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent down and looked in and saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came following him. And by the way, Simon Peter's character is much like John Wayne, okay? John Wayne's school of swimming meant to throw you into the water and then see if you could do it. And so Simon comes up, and it says this. Peter came in following him, went into the tomb. He saw the linen wrappings lying there, and the cloth had been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen wrappings, rolled up in a place by themselves. And then the other disciple who reached the tomb first also went in, and he saw and believed, and as far as they did not understand the scripture that he must rise from the dead, and then they all leave. Then the disciples return to their homes. Now, all of a sudden, they've been confronted by a new reality for which they had no reference system. Okay, for all they knew, Jesus had been stolen, his body had been taken away. They don't have any reference system to pick that up. And so I think that there's a piece there where all of us sometimes experience in our life something that happens that doesn't fit our reference system. And that's where our edge is. That's where our learning edge is. And I know that they could have had different reactions. They could have been mad. They could have been angry. They could have done all kinds of things. But Jesus' circle is about to be ushered into a new reality beyond their current level of understanding. And I think that happens to us, that we encounter life. I can tell you a number of physical things that I did where I encountered new realities. The most kind of dramatic ones had to do with riding dirt bikes when I was younger, and encountering several new realities that I shouldn't go up over a hill I'd never been over before until I saw the other side. It's a good thing they had good brakes, because I would have been in a big ditch doing stuff like that. There's just these realities. You go, wait a minute, I've got a whole new reality I've got to deal with. I've got to change my frame of reference. Anytime we do that, and this is just mundane things. It doesn't have to be experiencing a resurrection. It would be all kinds of stuff that I think that in all of our lives, we're all experiencing in some frame of reference or another new realities for which we do not have a frame of reference. Sometimes it's illness. Sometimes it's a job change. Sometimes it's 100 things our children marry somebody, or just 100 different kinds of things that push us into a new reality. That then it's time to learn some stuff. It's time to be open. And that's what's happening to the disciples, but particularly Mary. Okay? And so what I want to say is I want you to watch what she does in relation to this, because I think she models without anybody, having a moralistic pointer that says, look at her, she did the right thing. I'm just saying that she models an attitude that I think helps transform her reality into something really cool. Let's move to part of what that's about. And then all I'm doing, by the way, is reading the story. All I'm doing is reading the text. I have not changed it, and I have not left anything out. I'm reading straight through. But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb. Now, that's really important. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb, and she saw two angels in white sitting where the body of Jesus had been lying, one at the head and the other at the feet. And they said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" And she said to them, "They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." Now, in this, we see the character of a transparent Mary. She doesn't hide her feelings. She is there. She is totally present emotionally to this situation. And I would call your attention to the fact that the other dudes looked inside there and they didn't see no angels. But Mary sees them. And I think that those of us who are willing to be vulnerable like she was, those of us who are willing to be intimate and concerned, and they have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him. There is so much passion in that for me, that because she's so transparent, she's open, and in that process, she can see the angels. And she stays engaged in her grief, engaged in this setting of her current understanding. She doesn't back off because it's too painful. She's just totally there. And I think that there's times when we can do that and there's times when we can't. But she sees them. And I think that when we bring our genuine feelings, our genuine humility, then we learn things that others do not see. We see things that others do not see. And that's exactly what's going on there, okay? Now, then, when she said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there. And, thank you. But she did not know that it was Jesus. Mary encounters the risen Christ before anybody else. She doesn't recognize him. She thinks it's the gardener, as the story goes. And this is the beginning of a dawn for a new vision of human existence. And sometimes we are Mary. We look straight into the face of a new paradigm, a new possibility like Mary did, but we don't recognize it. And I think that one of these great acts of faith that we see in her is that she stands present to what God is doing, even when she doesn't understand it, even when she doesn't realize what it is or know what is possible. And I would even say that we're all in those situations, only maybe not so dramatically. We're all in places where God's doing new things in our lives, doing new things through, I don't know what all the pieces of them are. I mean, our family, our jobs, our health, all those things, that there's these new movements in there, and it's hard for us to see what they are, and we don't fully realize what it is or know what's even possible. We don't know the outcome. We don't know the implications. And so we stand present. And I would suggest to you that what made her stand present was her bondedness to Christ. And this is not a religious thing, because he was there and something had happened between them that had been so significant that she would do this. She would make this journey. And I don't need to, play games about were they married and stuff like that, because I don't think it's important. I think what's important is to see the intimacy, to see the true intimacy that's there. And I think that when we find ourselves bonded to people, that's kind of how we are. I mean, I get pretty emotional about dog stories, to where these dogs show up just sitting there waiting on their master to show up, and kind of a thing, and different things like that. Whereas there's this kind of non-rational, non-reflective bondedness that goes on there, and they just stand present to the situation. And I see that's what Mary did with Jesus. And I think that very factor alone is what makes her the one that is the first to experience Christ as a resurrected entity. So, and see what happens here. And Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" And, I wrote this straight out of the Revised Standard Version. Whom are you looking for? I never say that. Who are you looking for is what I always say. I almost changed it, but then I thought, I can't do that. God knows I don't know about grammar more than anybody else. But who are you looking for? Supposing him to be the gardener, she says to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away and reclaim it. She's open, honest, revealing, not judgmental. She doesn't throw a scene. And yet you know and I know that in the real world that we live in, there are times when we have been transparent. We have been vulnerable. We have been open. But we weren't dealing with Jesus. Okay? And we got run over. We got taken care of. We got interpreted that we were weak. And by here's a line for you that I came to me in my old age because I'm not a person who does verbal combat well. Don't assume that my politeness equals my weakness. Okay, you might need to use that sometime, so put it in your package. Because that's not the case. and so she in this case, though, and as Mary is dealing with Jesus, Jesus honors her vulnerability. And what I want to suggest to you is that models for us that Jesus will honor our vulnerability. Jesus will honor our honesty and help us take a new journey. Because I also know that in your life and mine, we've learned to be selective about our honesty, if that's fair. We've learned to be protective of our inner core, that we don't allow others inside that inner core except in certain circumstances. And I'm suggesting to you that with Christ, you can say all that stuff. And that's really important. And so she says all these things to Jesus, and he honors her life, her love, her transparency, and then he says to her, Mary. He calls her name, and she turns and says to him in Hebrew, and I didn't write that out in Hebrew because I don't like it, teacher. And that's basically what she said, only she said in Hebrew. And intimately, they were connected. They were reconnected right then. Jesus calls her name, and the sound of her name has just transitioned her into what I consider to be a new paradigm. All of a sudden, she is dealing with a risen Christ and not a dead body. She's the one that helped prepare the body. She's the one that did it with the spices and all that kind of stuff, and helped put him in there. And it's like, all of a sudden, I've got a new way to think about the world on my life. I've got a new way. He sees me, he knows me. And I help think of that phrase from Avatar. I see you, if you saw Avatar. It has to do with that interior peace, okay? He knew her. She knew him. They were clear about each other, and they were bonded to each other, so that from now on, she is going to know that life is more than what it might appear to be on the surface. And I want to suggest that to y'all. I want to suggest that I experience my life to be more than just what surface appearances are. And I begin to look into hearts and into values, and I know that when something happens, well, you know the old story about the guy this old story, had a horse come visit him. I mean, this is an ancient old story, and we've told it before. And he was a Jewish dude, which means he was very philosophical in this case. And it's a Middle European country, and it's during the time of the Middle Ages. And the old man says, and his friend says, wow, that's great. You got this beautiful horse come visit you and live with you. And he said, well, maybe yes, maybe no. And then, one day his son was riding on the horse, and the horse got a little excited, jumped over a fence, and the son fell off, broke his leg, and everybody said, that's terrible. And the Jewish guy says, yeah, maybe yes, maybe no. And then 2 days later, a big military group came through conscripting all the young men to go off to war, and they left the son there at home because he had a broken leg. And everybody said, that's wonderful. And the old Jewish just says, well, maybe yes, maybe no. Because you don't know, and you don't know what is going on with things like that. And I think that what, for me, this story is about is Jesus, again, introducing us to the reality that God is involved in our lives in ways that are beyond logic, that are beyond rationality. I mean, if you haven't figured it out by now, how I approach all these scripture stories, and trust me, when I was in the 6th grade, I took them as literal as anybody else, and then I got all that educated out of me to where I took nothing literally, everything to be full of, oh, it's the Lord. Calling. What do you have to say? Okay. And then I got clear, after I messed with the story so much, that the way to approach them is to take them all literally, because you look into them. You look into what they're doing, just exactly like what I'm modeling you. I don't question whether any of this happened. In fact, I had somebody say to me, this is years and years and years ago, it was a person who was struggling with all this. Well, what if some of this isn't true? I said, trust me, even if a couple of dudes and dudettes got together in a room and made all of it up out of the sky, it would still be true, because it addresses our lives. It tells us the truth about God. It tells us the truth about us as human beings, and it tells us the truth about all of creation and the way it's related. And from then on, I quit worrying about whether things were true or not true. Because, I mean, honestly, y'all, if you read the text, I just cannot believe some of the things that are in there. It's R-rated, number one. Number two, it's massively inconsistent. If you look at the Noah story, you know, everybody's got the big thing on the Bible going on with the movie, the History Channel thing. There's one place in the text where it talks about 2 by 2, and there's another place in the text it talks about 7 clean animals and not unclean animals. Okay? It's only about that much, and you skip over it quite easily, but it's like, so then if you're going to take literally, then you go, well, what are they talking about? Okay? And then you have to learn what clean animals and unclean animals are, because it has nothing to do with hygiene. Okay? And you understand that whoever wrote that was operating from a religious system in which religious purity was a value, and that religious system had evolved over a long period of time. Okay, never mind. But I want to show you that to show you how complex it can be if you take it seriously and start messing with it. But see, then what you then back off of it and say is, okay, so God helped recreate society, no matter how God did it, and God is continually helping to recreate society and move us from this point on a big boat over to some other point, whether it's a big boat or, you know, a catamaran or something, who knows. But because the issue is the process. The issue is this relationship here. The issue, as we look at this, is this intimacy that has gone on between Mary Magdalene and Jesus, and how intimate she is and close she is, and she just wants a way to hold him. I wasn't super happy with that picture because it was a little too romantic, but it did the best job I could find at getting the kind of intimacy that I felt was there. I'm not a real fan of Anglo-Saxon Jesuses, but it's the way it is. So here we are, and because her life has been transformed, I'm convinced that her worldview will be criticized by cynics, because she will see that Christ is in everything, because she will live in the audacity of hope, if you'd let me say that. She will offer forgiveness even though she may appear weak. She will experience the fundamental knowledge that God in Jesus Christ is her eternal friend, her eternal teacher, her eternal Savior, and her constant companion. She will know that intimately the rest of her life because of the experiences she had after the resurrection. There is a bonding there that we all can claim. And in this experience, I would hope that, every person of Odyssey would know that. And so the last slide is this. What's your story? Insert your life story into this process, into this thing that happens. We all perceive the world in a certain way. We experience exposure to new ways that sometimes explode our previous models. Jesus shows up resurrected, and we're going, whoa, what deal is this? We become frustrated, confused, disoriented, questioning, bringing our emotions to the situation, bringing rationality to the situation, bringing all kinds of questioning. And Christ is present in those situations, but sometimes unrecognized. And then he calls us by name. And then we go, oh, Jesus was working in this, and I didn't see it. Jesus was helping me do something and get someplace. And then we enter a new paradigm of possibility for our growth. And I believe that we have witnessed in this story that process of how that goes on. And hopefully all of us can go at some time, oh, now I get it. And believe that the spirit that animated this risen Christ is present and active in our world, in our lives, and that we are continually called to go to the tomb and wait and look for it. And the promise of Easter is that Christ will be present, alive, changing challenging our growth, expressing passion, offering forgiveness, sharing wisdom, and calling our name. That we can then see Christ active in movement in our lives. Every one of us, by name. Let us pray. Lord Jesus, we do come to you in thanksgiving that you are alive in our lives, that you are alive in this world, that you are moving through things, that as we come to you, as we look for you, as we wait on you, as we sometimes offer our tears, waiting for you like Hannah did, saying, please help me. I'm so frustrated at my life. And she was then given what she needed in order to journey forward. And so we are all there. And we give you thanks that you are there for us in this time and in this place. Amen.
This is another praise and worship song called I Can Sing of Your Love Forever. I don't think we ever played it, but some of the guys in the band remember it from previous bands. Mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me, and I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands, for I will always sing of when your love came down, yeah. Over the mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me, and I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands, for I will always sing of when your love came down, yeah. I can sing of your love forever. 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 Oh, I feel like dancing. It's foolishness, I know, when the world has seen the light. They will dance with joy like we're dancing now. I can sing of your love forever. 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 Over the mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me, and I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands, and I will always sing up when love came down. I can sing of your love forever. I can sing of your love forever. sing of your love. For